About 20 minutes in, we're dealt pocket aces under the gun +1. I raised to 15. The hijack calls, the button 3-bets to 65. This is a dream scenario. The button only had about 600 to start the hand. I'm wondering what's the best way to get all of it. 4-bet jamming is overkill. I make a much smaller 4-bet to 150. It's an amount that's too small for the button to fold to, and then he'll have a 2-to-1 stack to pot ratio if he calls. It's not a large amount. Maybe he'll feel obligated to 5-bet rip it. The hijack folds. The button is contemplating what to do. It doesn't take him too long to decide though.
All in. Call.
Here we go. Again. Let's get a sweat here.
Diamonds. Chop it up.
Nice try.
Right away, we stack an opponent with our 6s full of aces to beat an ace-king offsuit hand that plays the board. It's a nice way to begin, and we're not done with aces either. One orbit later, we're under the gun +1, and we pick him up again. This time the straddle's on. I raised to 30. The hijack calls. The button 3-bets to 90. I don't know what's going on, but I could have used some of this in Austin. I was only dealt pocket aces once in 3 live stream sessions spanning about 25 hours. I've already been dealt aces twice here in just over a half hour. Wait, it gets even better though. The big blind is about to make a play.
Squeeze time. 390.
390.
I've never been so excited for squeeze time in my life. The big blind picked a fantastic time to 4-bet to 390 with only 2,035 total. His name is Mike. He said earlier that he wanted to make the vlog. Mike is certainly going to accomplish that. I find myself in another terrific spot. We're going to apply the same principles here as the last hand we went over, as we almost min 5-bet to 800. Whatever Mike cold 4-bet to 390 with, I doubt he'll want to fold for 410 more. Plus, the fact that he announced it was squeeze time may make him feel like I could somehow be 5-betting light, even though that'll never be the case with a caller and a 3-better behind me.
So you mean you actually had a good early positioning open race?
I have the best one. The hijack and the button fold. The action's back on the big blind. He's a sticky player who makes the call, leaving himself with about 3/4 of a pot-sized bet left in his stack. The flop comes Jack 10-10 with 2 hearts. I suppose it's possible that we're up against pocket jacks, but there's a better chance we're up against ace-king, pocket kings, or queens. I feel much better about this flop, given that we have the ace of hearts. The big blind checks. Our goal was to make sure that we keep those worst hands in, so even though we probably have the best hand, I announce a tiny bet at 200 to elicit a shove or keep ace-king in when the big blind may only have 4 outs max. This sizing does the trick.
200. All in.
Okay, I gotta get lucky.
It's good to hear.
Okay. Oh, you got one of my outs.
King queen.
Yeah.
The opponent has king-queen offsuit. He flops an open-ended straight draw, but he can't hit an ace or we'll make a full house. The opponent picks up a few more outs on the turn as he pairs his queen. It's looking bleak for him though, because only 2 queens are left in the deck, and we picked up a flush draw, so only 3 non-heart 9s will give him a straight that's good. The river is the 8 of clubs. We stack another opponent with aces. It's a massive pot of more than 800 big blinds that we take from Mike. It's actually one of the biggest 2-5 pots that I've ever won. Mike's wish comes true of making the vlog, but it comes with a price.
All right, Mike. You're in there.
Chris, I don't
You're in
want to
there.
be in this fucking video.
Mike's a great guy who typically plays much larger games and just loves creating action. I appreciate it. It feels so good to win some hands and run well in a cash game session after weeks of being in a drought. We're somehow already up over 2,500. 11 minutes later, we're dealt ace-king offsuit on the button with the straddle on. The cutoff raises to 30. We're just going to keep re-raising people with our strong hands. I 3-bet to 100. The under-the-gun straddler doesn't believe that we're getting dealt all these monsters at such a high frequency. He puts in the cold 4-bet to 335. It's completely wild that there's been this much action already at the first table of the meetup game. The cutoff folds. We're not going to be 5-betting this time. I just flat the 335 so that we can play a big pot in position. We're heads up. The flop comes 8-4-3 with 2 diamonds. It's not exactly what we were hoping for, but we still have 2 overs with some backdoor draws. The opponent may not like seeing all the low cards out there either. He downbet significantly to 235. Perhaps he's using the same tactic as me to milk players when they're drawing dead or close to dead. If he has aces or kings, I'm in big trouble. The opponent may fire for larger and larger amounts on the turn and river. All I can do is make the best decision possible in the moment and take things street by street. I can't fold to a small bet at this juncture when we're getting a good price and there are plenty of cards that can help us improve. I call, hoping to see an ace, king, or a diamond. The turn is the 9 of diamonds, giving us the king-high flush draw. This slows down the under the gun player. He checks. I'm starting to suspect that he may have the same hand as us, but maybe without a diamond. The fact that we're holding both an ace and a king makes it way less likely that we're up against aces or kings. There are only 3 combos of each of those pairs possible, while there are 9 combinations of ace-king that we could be up against, so it's about 50% more likely that we're up against ace-king than it is that we're up against one of the 2 best pocket pairs. If we can get ace-king to fold, that'd be a huge win for us because we can win a big pot right now without having to depend on hitting a 4th diamond to do so. We won't have to bet too much to get folds out of ace-king hands that aren't containing the ace of diamonds. I bet 400 to target those holdings specifically. Even if we're up against pocket queens or jacks, we'll still have about a 30% chance of improving to have the best hand on the river. I really just don't want to get check jammed on and have to fold. We don't need to worry. The opponent confirms our read as he mucks his hand.
Alright, so we got that one. Do we have the same hand there?
Same.
Yeah. Alright, thanks.
Under the gun says that he had ace-king without a diamond. We've been winning all sorts of 4 and 5 bet pots. This one is especially sweet since we applied pressure to avoid a chop and win a pot of almost 250 big blinds outright. Next we pick up pocket kings under the gun +2 with the straddle on. Under the gun +1 is first to act. He raises to 30. If I 3-bet while I'm second to act, it'll telegraph the strength of our hand. We may as well play it face up. Since there's been a lot of 3 and 4 betting anyway, I get a little creative and just flat, hoping that we can put in a back 4 bet if someone behind us re-raises. Our plan doesn't quite work out how we drew it up. The big blind calls, Mike calls, and the under the gun straddle. We've essentially turned our pocket kings into deuces as we go 4 ways to the flop, but at least we're in position. Now, what you want to do with deuces is drill a set on an ace-high board. That's exactly what we do. The flop comes ace-king-9 rainbow. We have about the sneakiest set that we'll ever have. I'm glad that I just flatted the initial pre-flop raise after all. It checks to the under the gun +1 player. He bets 50. There's really not much to be afraid of other than maybe queen-jack or jack-10 making a straight. I call to keep as many players in as possible. The big blind folds, but Mike calls to close the action. 3 of us are still in. The turn is another 9, giving us a full house. If Mike has a 9, we could make piles of money. It seems that he might because he takes the initiative and leads for 250. It's almost a pot-sized bet. Under the gun +1 folds. The under the gun player just put out a massive bet. He's probably drawing extremely slim, if not dead. We don't want him going anywhere, plus we have position on him to make sure that the river doesn't check through anyway. I just call one more time. If the opponent's on a draw, I hope he hits it. The river is the 3 of clubs, so the backdoor flush draw gets there. The opponent has no quid in him. He cocks back and fires for 800. I hope he has a smaller boat or hit runner clubs. Flatting pre-flop couldn't have worked out more perfecter. Mike only has 1170 on top of his giant river bet. Let's see if he wants to play for everything. Come on.
I tried to get greedy with an ace. Tried to get greedy against a good player. I shouldn't do that.
I had a very, very sneaky hand.
Well done.
It looks like Mike figured we both had an ace and would be chopping with the 2 9s out there and the king kicker. The issue for him is that the king was not a kicker for us. One more enormous pot comes our way in the first hour and a half. We're already winning over $4,000 out of the gate. In this one, we've got pocket 3s under the gun. I raised to 15. The button calls. The small blind calls as well. We're going 3 ways to the flop. It comes king-3 with 2 spades. I immediately hang up the phone with the sales representative from Bass Pro Shops after telling him, thanks, but I've already got a boat. The small blind checks. I put in a sneaky check. The button also checks. The turn is the 8 of clubs. This excites the small blind. He bets 15. It's time for us to make our move. I raise to 50. That's too much for the button. He folds. The small blind isn't deterred. He calls for 35 more. Maybe he's got trips. The river is another 3. We make quad 3s for the second time today. I've never made quads twice in the same session before. It's pretty amazing. Small blind checks. He only has 380 left in the stack. If he has a king, he's never folding to a jam. If he has a missed flush draw, he can't call a bet anyway. I rip it in. Small blind apparently has air and folds immediately.
Did river quads there.
Pick up pocket eights onto the gun. I raise to 15, a player in middle position calls, the hijack calls, the cutoff calls, and the big blind calls as well. We're going more ways to the flop than I can count. I'm okay with it though because we flop a full house again. It comes king, king, 8. After a month of running absurdly cold, it turns out all the strong hands that I wasn't making were waiting for me in Cambodia. Checks to me, with 4 opponents. I'm not going to slow play this. I bet 25, hoping that at least one player will have a king. The player in middle position might. He raises to 75. The hijack folds. The cutoff isn't afraid of a bet and a raise in front of him. He puts in a re-raise to 200. Someone must have gone into the settings and put poker on easy mode for us today. I appreciate it. The big blind folds. There's almost nothing I can do here that won't look extremely strong. I flat the 200, which I'm sure looks very suspicious. The player in middle position was just messing around with his raise. He folds. It's heads up with the cutoff, who only has 413 remaining. The turn is the 4 of spades. It could be good if the opponent somehow had a flush draw, but it's more than likely not good because the cutoff probably had trips and could be afraid that the flush draw just got there. I check. The cutoff is taking his time with his decision. Eventually, he makes up his mind. His mind tells him to jam. Bad decision. We snap call. The cutoff knows right away that he's going to need some help. I turn over the full house because I don't want to slow roll him. The cutoff keeps his cards face down.
Did you get there? Nice hand, nice hand, nice hand.
Whoa.
How much is it?
The cutoff hits a miracle river to boat over boat me, scoop the pot, and get a big double up. We played it the best we could. Sometimes the deck doesn't cooperate. I knew that I should have left when we were up 4,300, but that probably wouldn't have been a great look at a meetup game. We win 2,200 after playing 7.5 hours, though poker isn't over for the trip.